Today on the Dislist, we bring you a Patreon preview episode where we discuss places we'd like to see at Disney Park.
Welcome to the Dislist, the podcast that ranks everything in Walt Disney World. I'm Nick.
And I'm Rob, and welcome to episode 69, where we bring you a Patreon preview episode where we discuss places we'd like to see at Disney Park. Did you see me when I recorded that? I was like literally pointing to myself,
I did,
and I thought,
I was like, what
my Italian roots are coming out so much. This is an audio medium, Rob. This is not not video. Well, we could actually. I don't know. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but we talked about maybe doing a video interview at some point.
Yeah, we definitely have. We tried it, and then the editing process became a bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
But we might go back. Who knows?
We'll see how it goes. We have a couple people we've talked to that we could end up doing interviews with, a couple for a regular episode and a couple for a Patreon episode. So Speaking of Patreon episodes.
Yeah, so I thought it'd be nice because some people reached out and said, you keep talking about the Patreon episodes and how they're different. How are they different?
What's it like? Yeah.
We figured we would do one with our regular long form episode. This is going to be longer than a typical Patreon mini, but these are fun because we get to kind of just be ourselves and have a conversation. There's no rules with a script of you have to have a top 5. And who knows? We could end up going to this long form version of this more often. But right now, I think this is something that we enjoy a lot. We like to be able to just kind of talk about, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And it really opens it up. It's not as, like I said, it's not as scripted. Not that we are scripted, but you know what I mean.
Well, it's like a regular conversation that you and I would have at work. So Nick and I work together. We're both teachers, and he'll come in. We have a couple of our off periods kind of coincide, and we'll chat and shoot the breeze, sometimes in the morning, sometimes at the end of the day, and you'll get a little piece of what that conversation is like.
Yeah. Some cool stuff happened this week. Depends on how you feel about cool. For us, I think it's kind of a cool thing. They kind of gave us some details about the new Epcot fireworks, and now they're saying it's going to open, was it December 5th will be the first showing.
Okay.
And it's going to feature fireworks, of course, right? Water fountains.
Huh.
Weird. Lasers. Lighting effects, and classic Disney music. Sounds familiar, except for there's no mention of water tacos.
So if you were to read that 2 years ago, what is the difference between that description and the description of Harmonious?
Barges.
That's it.
I mean, I don't know what else there could be.
We've said on the show multiple times, we loved Harmonious. We loved it.
I think the difference is they inserted the word classic before Disney music.
Right.
Because the Disney music that was involved in Harmonious wasn't quite as classic, if you ask me. Not Harmonious. Yeah, Harmonious.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And I think, I don't know. Actually, I don't know this. People are just generally bitter about the whole thing. I don't know if people had an issue with it being sung in native languages, but I thought that was so cool. Come on, you're in World Showcase. This is like,
I think also the fact that it's going to be, Epcot can be kind of formal at times, and so my understanding is it's going to be classical interpretations of the music, I believe.
Really?
Well, I mean, the subtitle is Symphony of Us, so I wonder if it's going to be like an orchestra type stuff.
Cool.
I had heard that the reason it's delayed a little bit was because they had to re-record everything because they didn't like the way the recording turned out.
Oh.
I had heard that, but whether that's true or not, I just think it's funny that they're basically admitting, oh yeah, by the way, all those fountains that we told you was the reason we needed to have those barges.
Yeah.
Turns out we can do them without barges.
Surprise.
Yeah. So that's a bit much. The other thing that's happening more and more, and this is not something that's like exclusive to us reporting or something like that. I don't want to pretend that way. Multiple outlets. The first place I had heard it was actually on the Disney Dish.
Yeah, me too.
But people are getting surveys that basically kind of allude to the fact of like, what did you like about Galactic Star Cruiser? What did you not like? What are ways that it could have been improved?
Mm-hmm.
You don't ask those questions if you never want to go back to it. And you probably don't want to abandon, if you're a business that's losing money in certain places.
Yeah.
You probably don't want to completely abandon this huge project. So there's some rumors that the
Star Cruiser may not be closed for good.
Right. The Star Cruiser's just going to be revamped, not completely rethemed, which I'm not shocked by.
One of the rumors was it was difficult for them to make a profit off of it, which, I mean, you're the numbers guy out of the two of us. I mean, if you're paying, what was the average cost? This is a guesstimate. It was like $5,000 just for the entire thing, or for per night?
Let's call it less than that. Just I can't remember. The entire thing was, let's say, $3,500 a person, because it depended on.
And you think about what's involved, and from what I heard, is they always have 2 full casts on hand at all times.
That doesn't shock me.
That was one of the reports. They said, so let's say you have every person who's, we'll say performers, and normally we'd say cast members, but they're literally performers here.
Yeah, I think that was the big issue.
And they have, just in case something happens or someone gets sick, or God forbid anything like that happen.
You have to have an understudy.
They have understudies, and they were all there at the same time, so that cost became pretty steep as well. There's food, maintenance, power, probably, housekeeping crews. I'm trying to think of what else would be in there.
You have all the normal costs associated with running a hotel. Then you have all the normal costs associated with running meals or running restaurants.
And super unique, though. Like, there's a whole lot more that goes into preparing, blue shrimp and.
I mean, it's food coloring, so probably not that much more.
Right, but even a little bit.
Right, it's so that you have all those normal, the themed restaurant costs. You have, running a hotel costs, and then on top of that, you have the cost of paying performers, like really good performers.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big part of it. And then, I'm sure that they had figured out ahead of time, this is what we have to price it to make a profit.
Yeah.
But they probably didn't figure out, this is what we have to price it at to make a profit at 50% capacity. Because at some points it was running at 50% capacity. Right. And so they were losing money.
Do you know if they asked any questions about characters? I'm curious about that, if they were ever looking to pivot away from certain characters, because I think, obviously Darth Vader is a beloved character, and using him as
they did not. The questions I heard, they were not talking about pivoting away from characters.
Okay.
It was more about...
So not bringing in Mandalorian because it's current, or Ahsoka?
No.
Okay.
It was more about, do we even need that?
Okay.
Was that an essential part of this? Or did you just like being, because here's the thing. I'm not ever going to do it, because I'm not going to do a role play. I wouldn't go to Comic-Con for the same, I shouldn't say that. I wouldn't do the whole cosplay at Comic-Con. You know what I mean? Like, the people who go and cosplay, that's not my thing. So, I'm not going to do the Galactic Star Cruiser, because that's quite literally, if you don't do that,
right,
it's kind of a waste of money.
Well, and my personality lends to, I would do something like that. I'm very extroverted and very outgoing. Not that you're not, but you don't like that stuff as much. But my point is, I didn't really want to do it for that reason either. Like, when I go to Disney, I'm just chilling. Okay, yeah. I'm walking around enjoying good food,
backstory.
And having good time with my family. Like, I guess I don't. If I were to do it, it would be like, I would go with a group of buddies. It would be like, you, me, Mikey, and Todd. If I were to do it, but I still don't like. That's not enough. And looking at that $4,000 cost, I don't know, man. It's a lot.
It is a lot, and the reality is, I like maybe 5 people in the world, enough to spend that much time with them.
Well, I shouldn't have said that, because now Mikey and Todd are like, oh, Rob wants to go now.
Yeah, right.
Guys, don't get too excited, guys.
No, but you know what I'm saying? There's not that many people I like enough to want to spend that kind of time and that kind of money on something that I'm going to feel uncomfortable doing.
Yeah.
Because I would be uncomfortable doing it.
Yeah, and I don't think I would. I guess I just don't want to. And I think the different tasks that you do, the lightsaber training, it seems, I don't know. And I haven't done it. And I'm saying all this and I haven't even been there. It just seems kind of kiddish. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think the kiddish part is like I'm not into that is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And I'm certainly not into that when I'm on Disney vacation because I want to be able to like relax.
Right.
Which I know for some Disney vacations are the opposite of that, but
Yeah.
but you can still have that. And the relaxation here is in a room that looks like a bunk bed. I don't like those rooms don't appeal to me. I don't know. The whole
They
thing.
look cool, but I don't want to stay there.
I still stand by the fact that it should just be a themed hotel.
Yeah.
Where everybody can go and dine, and there might be a character meal or two. That would make whether it would make them the money or not, I don't know, but like it would at least be something.
So speaking of Patreon episodes, this is kind of a thing we end up doing a lot in the Patreon episodes too, is like we'll retheme stuff. So I'm going to quickly go out on a limb and kind of show everybody.
We actually did a retheme of this.
We did. So now I'm thinking about it, you were talking about, you gave me an idea when you said you just want like a straight up hotel.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if it's nondescript, you walk in the hotel and your entrance looks like you're blasting off into space, right? That's what they do, similar to the Space 220 restaurant.
Yeah. Which is also so successful.
But then,
sorry.
But imagine getting in the elevator and pressing a button, and that button is Tatooine, Endor. We'll leave that in there. It's okay. I corrected myself. And any other Star Wars planet? Hoth, sure.
Because when I'm in Florida, I want to be in Hoth.
Sure. Can you imagine that? And then one of 3 or 4 different doors opens, and you go down the hallway. So when you book your stay, you'd be like, okay, I want to stay in the Hoth bunker themed rooms. So the door opens, and it looks like you're walking down those hallways when you're in the bunker in Hoth with the snow. You know what I'm talking about?
I totally know what you're talking about.
And that would be kind of a cool experience. I'm completely retheming it now, but
no, why not, right?
Endor would be like you were inside of, it's all, like cut wood, and you're walking in kind of where the Ewok village there.
That'd be cool.
That would be cool.
Like a treehouse kind of thing going on.
Anyway, so now we're, getting back into kind of the Patreon side of things where we like to be creative and pretend that we're Imagineers even though we're not.
Yeah, I mean, the cool thing would be if you could stay in a room that really had a bad stench, and it was you were staying inside of a tauntaun.
I thought they smelled bad on the outside.
Yeah. So this is gonna be a fun one. When we come back from the halftime show here, we're gonna give you a kind of a sneak peek into our what our patrons get every week. This week it's something that's gonna be fun. It could have been a top 5. I think the reason that I wanted to do a Patreon preview is because I don't know I can come up with 5 places, but I can come up with a few places that I would like to see a Disney park, and I know that Rob could too.
Oh yeah. So
we're gonna head off to the halftime show that's brought to you by our lovely patrons over on Patreon. You can go to www.patreon.com/dislistpod to check that out. And when we come back, we'll be discussing where we're going to be building our favorite place, Walt Disney Parks. This is new, Rob.
Yeah, it's the straight up club mix, we call it.
Yeah, we like it.
What is it really?
It's actually our theme music for the Dislist podcast Patreon exclusive minis.
Wow.
We kind of been messing around. We do everything backwards over there.
We do. I call it the party remix because it's got like that, I don't know, it's kind of a southern beat. It kind of reminds me of New Orleans beat a little bit.
It's got a little bit of, it sounds like a guy's playing a washboard in the background.
Yeah, let's bring it in one last time here. I guess I never noticed the washboard, right?
Yeah, right there. Doesn't it sound like a washboard?
There?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. I guess it's supposed to be a hi-hat, but...
I mean...
Anyway, that's the party remix there. Okay,
yes.
That's enough of that.
Yep.
We've heard enough.
Yeah. So we're going to discuss our places that we want to build a Disney park. Or we want Disney to do it. I don't have the money to build one. So,
Actually, let's start with money here.
What?
So Disney said $60 billion
Yep.
in the parks, investment in the parks over 10 years.
Yep.
So I also looked this up too. I looked up an estimate for how much Epic Universe costs to build.
Okay.
And I found anywhere between one of the reports said $1 billion. Another report said $3 to $4 billion.
That's it? And Disney wants $60 billion?
Well, I tried to find multiple estimates for how much
What?
a brand new. Go ahead and look it up.
No,
and
that's crazy.
Maybe I'm wrong, but that was the rough estimate of how much that cost. So I'm looking at that, and I'm hoping that you can prove me wrong here. I'm actually looking forward to it.
No.
Because if we're looking at $60 billion and Epic Universe only costs $1 to $4 billion to make for a brand new park, $60 billion is a major amount of money. Right?
Yeah.
All right, tell me what you find when you get
No,
that.
it says Disney has announced plans to invest about $60 billion in the expansion of its theme parks.
Okay.
In the expansion of its theme parks, cruise lines, and resorts over the next decade.
Okay,
but still, 1/60th of that could build you Epic Universe.
Right. That's wild.
Well, I say they keep $10 billion and do stuff in Disney, like
Yes.
in the current Disney World.
Disney World, right?
And then with $1 billion per state left over, every state gets a Disney park.
There's some math for you.
I don't know that that's a good idea. So when we usually do a Patreon episode, I go first.
Yes.
As opposed to you going first.
We flip
Yeah.
everything, and we will today too.
So here's my thoughts.
You start with one.
Yeah,
Anyone you want. There's no numbers here.
I know. I'm going to say that I believe Australia, specifically like Sydney, Australia,
Okay.
would be a cool place to have a Disney park.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
There's nothing in the Southern Hemisphere.
Nope.
A. B. I want to go to Australia, so that gives me a reason to go.
That's a very good point.
And you could have you have the whole Nemo thing tie in anyway with Sydney.
Yeah.
I think it'd be good. Rescuers, you got Nemo.
Yep.
I think Australia needs a park.
Well, I think it's good that you said that because that sort of creates a flagship character that they could, lean on. Not that, I guess Disney World, you have kind of the Fab Five, but it might be kind of a cool thing like an Epcot where you have the Fab Five plus like Figment kind of becomes the unofficial mascot of that park. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's something you would do with Australia where, Nemo or the Rescuers, Dory. If you're not familiar with the Rescuers, you should be. The first one is great. I do not remember the second one at all, but I remember loving that first movie. But that would be kind of cool.
Well, I mean, they have multiple in Asia. You've got Disneyland Paris. You have to think that they've considered expanding other places.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the difference is, at least with the Asian parks, a lot of that bill was not footed by Disney.
No.
And even in Disneyland Paris, there's a lot of Disney wasn't the one dumping all that money in.
Right.
But $60 billion with a B.
Right.
$60 billion with a B. And how far does that go in other countries too? That's the other thing.
Well, that'll lead me to mind, and I have quite a few. I have some U.S., some local ones, but I was thinking something in the Middle East. And I know Middle East is kind of it's broad. You can go India. I'm pretty sure
India is not Middle East.
Well, I'm adding that to Middle East.
All right, gotcha.
So I'm saying somewhere in that vicinity, and I'm pretty sure that there's a Universal park. It may be in, I want to say Saudi Arabia or United
Arab Emirates?
Yeah, I think that's where it is. Yeah, Nick's looking it up right now. But I think somewhere in that general vicinity, Middle East, India, somewhere in there. I mean, you look at just the vast population in that area, I feel like that might be a good place to shoot for, just as a moneymaker. You got it there?
Yeah, it's in Dubai.
Okay.
I'm not sure Disney's going to put their hat in the ring in that particular part of the world.
Because it's controversial and...
Just say the least.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they already own like 1,000 soccer teams, so why not also buy out Disney?
Yeah. all all of Disney?
Well, I don't think you understand. Like, never mind. I'm a soccer geek, but like when you
No, go for it.
I'm just saying,
that's the point of this episode is we're chatting. I go for the soccer angle. I'm interested.
I'm just saying, like Saudi Arabia and the UAE, like they basically own whole leagues, whole soccer leagues, and they buy players at inflated rates to make their money. Like it's ridiculous. They own Manchester City basically.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Why do you think Man City wins all the time?
Wow.
Not because they're good, because Man City goes out and buys whoever they want because they can do it. And
So
somehow
Man City's the Yankees of soccer?
No. Yankees are the Man City of baseball. That's how, like, I don't think you get.
That's why I want you to explain it.
Yeah, no, it'd be impossible to do it, but like, it's very corrupt. I'll just say that.
Okay.
I don't think Disney's going to put their hands in that, but if they did, it would be kind of cool to go in there. I think if you're going to really talk about that part of the world, if you're looking at UAE or Dubai, I think there's places better suited in Northern Africa. So like in Egypt or
sure.
But the other thing is that it's not as politically settled. I don't know if that's the right way to say it. There's always conflict, right? So,
I guess the reason I went to that part of the world is I remembered that Universal has presence there now.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
so
in
I
Dubai.
thought maybe that would be a good move for them too.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad idea. I think we both kind of shot for the stars with our first one.
Yeah. I'm settled a little bit more with some of my others.
Yeah. So I've got domestic ones.
Me too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think there needs to be something in like the Midwest.
Yes.
So I wasn't very specific.
I was.
I mean, I have one that I would really like. That I think it would be good for the area too.
Sure.
And that is like Detroit area. Not Detroit itself, but Detroit area.
Keep going.
I'm just saying, like, I know it's north. I get that it gets cold. It was between Detroit and Chicago. And I was like, Chicago with the wind and how cold it really gets. Well, Detroit gets cold, but I don't feel like it gets as bad as Chicago. And so that, for me, Detroit was what I was thinking would be kind of cool. Plus the fact that, like, let's be honest, industry is changing. And because Detroit and Michigan and that part of the country, Michigan and parts of Indiana, really rely on automakers, and we don't know what the future of that holds, especially with legislation for different kinds of cars and automation and all the sorts of stuff with, like, you're not going to have people building engines anymore because we're not going to have combustion engines. A way to boost that economy when those things go away, especially as somebody who lives currently in a place where, all of a sudden film photography went away, and look what happened to Rochester, New York.
Yeah.
Or like in Buffalo when the grain industry kind of plummeted, all those grain silos now just sitting there on the waterfront.
Yeah.
So, you kind of have to pivot and figure something else out. And I think Detroit is underrated, and that part of the country is an underrated place to go visit. So.
Well, it's interesting that that's where you went, because I have two of them that are basically, you chose the place between the two that I'm looking at here.
Okay.
And one is right across the bridge, and that's Ontario, Canada.
Toronto?
Well, Toronto area. So Toronto area right now has
pretty big.
Well, they have Marineland, but that's closer to Niagara Falls.
Correct.
They have Canada's Wonderland, which is north of Canada there, or north of Toronto. But then I thought, if you look at the population of Toronto, it is absolutely massive. And if you put something, I'm not saying necessarily in kind of the metro Toronto area, let's say it's a little bit further south, obviously it'd be closer to us in Western New York, but it would also be really accessible for the people that live in Eastern Michigan as well. So those people could also work there too. That commute's not bad. Have you driven through there before, like through Detroit and through that area of...
You mean going through Canada that way?
No. It's very easy. So it's an easy commute if you live in Michigan and you go across the bridge.
You can, like, easily if you put something in London, Ontario,
Yeah, that actually would be a good spot.
it's like the midway point between Niagara Falls and Detroit.
Yeah, or Hamilton wouldn't be bad too, somewhere around that area.
Hamilton's a lot further from Detroit.
Yeah. Oh, I realize that, but I'm trying to think of a spot. Let's say it's Hamilton. That's a little bit more centrally located for, if you're coming from Montreal and you can kind of go out. And I realize that's far too. I know that, but I'm saying you can go down and around, and I feel like Hamilton would be a little easier than if you did London or something like that.
Yeah, London's on the 401.
Is
Sorry,
it really?
I'm getting into Canada.
No, go
stuff,
for it.
But London's on the 401, so to me that would be a better one.
And that's the one that goes to Detroit and back. That's
Correct. That's the big one. The 401's like
Sure.
It's like their version of 90.
Wherever Gretzky's from. That's on there too.
Sure.
No, it is. It is.
Yeah. So you've got you have Kitchener and stuff like that, but London's like the midway point between Toronto and Detroit. So that's what I would look at. But I mean, I didn't even think about going up to Canada.
Thinking Canadian presence. I mean, you could go all the way over to Vancouver. That wouldn't be bad either, because there isn't. I mean, Disneyland is Southern California. You could also do Vancouver. That's not on my list, but that's an option too. Canada needs some love. I know you grew up very close to Canada, so I know that Canadians have a special place for you. But and then I was thinking in Illinois, maybe a little bit further south, so not super close to that area of Chicago, which can pull in people from Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, that whole area, and then Ohio.
Well, I mean, you'd pull
Indiana.
in St. Louis.
Yeah,
too,
right. Absolutely.
That part of Illinois.
They can go up from there too. So I think I agree with you. Something centrally located. I probably wouldn't go as high as Detroit for that reason. That would be kind of like that Midwest park. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if listeners are aware of this or not, but there's a group of investors who are working on a theme park in Oklahoma. And I'm not sure specifically who these investors are or what the theme for the park is, but they're looking to do something on the scale of Disney and Universal.
Yeah. I mean, we could do Shermer, Illinois.
What's in Shermer, Illinois?
It's like it's the town that John Hughes always picked.
Oh, yes, it is.
Sorry. That was for people who like the Brat Pack type movies, I have one that is like I would say probably the thing that I think would be the coolest. Okay, so I don't have a top 5. This will be my third one. I'm just gonna.
If you're saying what I'm saying, this is probably going to be my number 1 too. But I'm curious where you're putting it.
What
are you going northeast yet?
No.
Okay, I'm going to wait then.
I'm not going northeast
because I got an idea for northeast.
No, God, that's the easy sell out. Yeah, I want one in my backyard. Well, not for me, not my literal backyard, but
sure.
The reality is, what makes Disney nice is that you can go year round, right? So what's another place that you can go year round?
Oh, I might have it on my list too. Is it south of Dallas?
It is not.
Oh, I was going to go south of Dallas because that's in between your 4 big cities there in Texas.
Okay. I'm not in Texas.
Okay, where are you?
I think that it would be a very cool place to have one would be in New Orleans.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say Las Vegas.
Gambling Mickey.
Yeah.
I mean, they've said they want ESPN to lean into the sports betting.
Yeah.
So maybe
could be. That was not on my list. But
so
New Orleans is awesome.
Not
I've been
New
there
Orleans itself, but the outskirts. Okay. Because there's not. I'm not a fan of. I don't want anybody to go in and ruin amazingly historic places with a Disney park.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: Disney already knows how to deal with wetlands, right? Yep. They already because Disney World is built on a swamp.
Well, they could build it the same way.
Yep. They already know how to deal with hurricanes, right?
Oh yeah.
They already know how to deal with all that comes with the southern weather and climate, whether that be, like I said, hurricanes, the heat and having to deal with the air conditioning. They know how to deal with all of those things already.
They do.
And so to me, something in Louisiana would be great. I think it'd be a great spot, personally. It's not halfway between the East and West Coast, but it's decently close to midpoint. It's certainly better than somebody on the West Coast having to go all the way to Disney World.
Yeah.
Plus the culture, plus the fact that they have movies that are based in New Orleans.
Plenty of tie-ins.
I think that would be a really cool place for them to build a park. Now, I also leaned into going a little bit further north and thinking about possibly like Memphis area, but I just settled finally and said, you know what? I think New Orleans is a place I'd love it.
So if they do that, I guess my question, and we haven't gone specific into
Think of the Haunted Mansion there.
Right. And I'm getting to that. Think now, these parks that we're mentioning, I guess if they're like a Canadian park or anyone that isn't part of, the continental U.S., because there is a presence in Hawaii right now. I was thinking about that earlier. But I'm thinking, do they all have to be castle parks? What if there's a satellite park that the whole theme of that park is Disney's New Orleans Square?
I don't think that's a problem. I never said they have to be castle parks.
No, but I wanted to get more specific with that one. When you said that, maybe that's what you lean into, and it's lots of Tiana, and that way people go and they can visit New Orleans and see the history and kind of go to Bourbon Street, and then they can also and then we're going to go up and we're going to visit the park. That's kind of the way Virginia is now too, because Virginia has that Busch Gardens Park. And it's funny. Have you ever been to that one? You have, right?
I have not.
You haven't? Because it's got a lot of Epcot flair to it.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
But
it's like if you were to take Epcot and, the other Busch Gardens and put the two together.
I think
you go to Germany and...
Right. I think the other thing that would be interesting in New Orleans is if they went and leaned into the history of New Orleans being, not spooky, but you get what I'm saying, right? It's the voodoo and all those and if that is where they built the Villains Park, is in Louisiana,
or have two of them.
I mean, why not? Right? They could have a studios like a studios version or a DCA, right? Something like a DCA, so Disney's Louisiana Adventure.
Yep.
Either way,
that's good. That's got a good ring to it too.
Yeah, I think it'd be a lot of fun. Those are where I would build parks. What you said, you have one in the Northeast, so I want to hear where you're thinking.
Oh, I'm gonna. Before I get to that, I want to end with that one because I have two left, and I had Texas, and I want it to be kind of a Western cowboy themed park,
a whole frontier land.
And when you see Disney, when you see Mickey and Minnie and Pluto, they cowboy hats. It's all. It'll lean into that sort of Western kind of country style.
Yeah,
but. There's a lot that can kind of tie in. You can take any character and give them kind of that cowboy outfit, and I think it would work really well.
You know what I just realized?
What?
With all these different climates that we're thinking about building parks.
Yeah.
We could finally get a Galaxy's Edge in each park that actually models differently. You could have a real Hoth.
Oh my God, you're right.
You could have a real Hoth.
You really could.
You have a real Tatooine in a desert in Texas.
Could be cool.
I don't know, you could be on Dagobah when you're in New Orleans.
I am telling you that, and I think I've said this on the show before. My bucket list is if I could pick anything that they could put into a Disney park that isn't there right now, it would be somehow to get an animatronic Jabba the Hutt. That is number one.
You have said this so
I've
often.
said it so much. How amazing. I just love, that's like my favorite Star Wars movie. I just love that whole scene with Jabba's palace. I think it's so cool.
You just like Leia.
I would. Well, I'm not saying no, but truly, that when I was little, I saw that in the theater, and it just seeing all those different creatures, and I have all the action figures.
Oh, I remember those old Kenner action figures.
I got a whole collection of them upstairs.
Yeah, I just, when you were talking about Texas, I was like, oh, you could do Tatooine pretty easily. It'd be all the sand. And then I was like, wait a second. The Canada one he mentioned, and the Detroit one I mentioned, you could do Hoth.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
If you did one in the Pacific Northwest, because you mentioned Vancouver, there's your Endor. Yeah.
I said it right this time.
Yeah. Not indoor.
Indoor, outdoor. Endor.
And that's the accent up there.
Yeah. A.
For sure.
B.
So Oh my god, listeners
right,
are like, "What's going on right now?"
Nah,
this is what a Patreon episode is like. We're just kind of talking about
just having fun, guys. Just to quote Jim Kelly, just having fun.
So I think Texas would be good. I wonder if the demand would be there because they are close enough to California. I know you might not. Parts of Texas obviously aren't because Texas is so massive.
Yeah,
but I think that'd be cool. And the reality is that there's obviously a demand for parks because isn't Universal building in Texas right now?
Yeah, that's the rumor.
So,
and Vegas.
Yeah.
Halloween Horror Nights in Vegas is kind of the rumor of what they're going to try to do.
Yeah.
Year-round horror themed.
I think that
horror. Sorry, I got to be very clear on that.
Yeah, in
horror themed.
In Las Vegas, you do have to.
Horror.
Jeez. This is going off the rails.
A little.
In a hurry. Okay.
Sign up for Patreon. This is what it is, folks.
How about, I do want to get to whatever, I mean, do you have another one left? Yeah, you're Northeast. I want to hear
Northeast. I have a spot.
Well, I do too.
I doubt we have the same spot. We might.
Okay.
I want to have the Northeast Park.
Okay.
First of all, I want it to be kind of an indoor-outdoor hybrid.
Okay.
Similar to like the Bills are building a new stadium and it's got kind of a lip around it. I'm not saying to do that to the Disney park, but just be thoughtful of the fact that it will be partially indoor, partially outdoor. Side note, you ever been to Minnesota in the Mall of America?
No.
Okay. So in the Mall of America in Minnesota, there's a theme park inside.
Yeah.
And it works. It's wild to see because you're going through the stores and you turn the corner and then it's pretty big to be this indoor theme park. So I've seen it. There's roller coasters. It can be done. I'm not saying that's the greatest one in the world, but I'm thinking, here's my spot for this. It could be a castle park, but the castle could be a different kind of castle. Pick it from a different movie. I'm thinking maybe more like something that looks a little bit more, gosh, I'm trying to think of a movie that I would want it to see.
Rapunzel?
No, I want it gray. I want it like giant bricks. I want it kind of like, I don't know.
Why can't it be Beast Castle then?
Yeah, it could. All right, we'll go with Beast Castle.
It'd be the first castle park with a castle based off of a male character.
Cool. Why not?
Right?
Yeah.
Because nobody else has a male character park or a castle. I guess, here's a question. Is Cinderella Castle Cinderella's or is it?
Oh, she lives in the royal castle.
Right.
So it's who's ever living there.
Right.
Well, I guess so is Sleeping Beauty.
You know, if you're going to go in the Northeast, it could be Frozen.
Oh, that's also true.
It could be Arendelle. Anyhow.
Which they've made already.
Yeah,
So
I digress. So go ahead.
Yeah.
So where?
So I'm thinking a good spot for this would be between New York City and Philadelphia in Pennsylvania, because that place is kind of centrally located to your New England states, your Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and the other three.
The whole
above.
tri-state area.
Right.
Yep.
But then you have all of Pennsylvania, and it's very close to New Jersey because New Jersey is very densely populated. They're always looking for something fun to do. So I'm thinking that kind of area. I'm trying to think of what's there or what big cities are there in Pennsylvania. I don't think anything is really huge between. And if I remember correctly, I think it's somewhere around 2 hours if you're going from Philadelphia to New York. They're very close.
Yeah, they're miles. I think it's like 90 miles, but yeah.
Yeah.
So, no, you're not.
That's kind of my idea of where I think a good spot for it would be.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't see a problem with it. Because Great Adventure is down there, right? Since Six Flags Great Adventure is literally between New York and Philadelphia. So you're clearly not the first person to think of that.
I'm assuming you're going to do a park in the Northeast. What do you have?
If I'm being honest with you, I don't know how it would work because of the weather, but if I was going to pick a place, growing up where I grew up, and seeing how it's kind of turned. So I grew up in the Adirondacks, right? And inside of the Blue Line, that's the border of the Adirondacks on maps. Inside the Blue Line is privately owned, but it's a public park. So as a result, people with a lot of money who maybe think they know what's best for the area make decisions for people who live inside of that blue line that ultimately ends up hurting them at the expense of one side will say at the expense of the nature, and so we're preserving nature. The other side, mostly the people who live inside the blue line, are like, no, it's to protect your investment in your property that you own here because you want to be able to have your slice of paradise.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, starving out the people who live there. So I would like to see something not necessarily inside of the Adirondack Park, which, by the way, is the largest public park in the United States, bigger than any of the national parks, in fact. But I would like to see something maybe just outside the park where the only places you can really stay at that point are places inside the park, because even if you're just outside of the park, you're going to draw people to the area, which means economy is going to get boosted. I don't necessarily want to see them going and bulldozing, entire mountainscapes. Do I have a problem with them going in there and developing inside the park? Absolutely not. Is there plenty of space in there to do it? Yep.
Yeah.
But you can only build above a certain height inside the park if you have a lot of money. Disney has a lot of money.
Well, it's centrally located too.
Or if you are grandfathered in. If you're from the Northeast, you know what I'm talking about. If you've driven through the Adirondack Park in the last 10 years, you have like 3 locales that you drive through and you're like, wow, these are really nice places. Yep, it's all old money, or people from New York City bought it up and they own it and they run it. And then all the rest of the towns look like they're falling in on themselves because they are. Because the only thing they let people build there are prisons and schools and hospitals. You're either a doctor and a nurse, a teacher, or a prison guard. And it's horrible to say, but it's where I grew up. And I trust me, I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And it's because
you've told me many times.
It's because of the way the government has kind of treated this privately owned land and told people what they can and can't do with it. So I think, personally, I would love to see something go in New York State, in that part of New York State, to draw people also when people say, oh, I'm going to New York for the weekend. Oh, really? Have fun in the city. You know what? New York City is such a small little thumbnail size part of our state. I would love for people to be able to explore, other parts. We have the Finger Lakes has the wine region.
Yeah.
Right. So if the Adirondacks all of a sudden got some theme parks, we do have a Six Flags just outside of the Adirondack Park.
Is that Great Escape?
It is Six Flags Great
Escape.
Where
is that in relationship to, let's say listeners probably know where Albany is?
It's halfway between Albany and the border, I would say.
Okay.
Yep. I would call it, well, maybe not halfway, maybe a third of the way north. About an hour north of Albany. So
if you're in Boston and we were to travel to your park, it would probably be 3 hours?
Yeah. Boston to, maybe 4. Because Boston to Albany is about that. So.
How far from New York City?
4.
Albany? Okay. So
to Albany or to the parks?
Well, where you want to place your
say
park.
4 to 5, depending on if it's inside or outside the.
Okay.
Yeah, like if they were to take over Six Flags Great Escape, if they took over that land, it's just outside the Adirondack Park, but they do Disney. Let's be honest, Disney does a better job of theming and getting people to come in. They would have a way bigger attendance, and they would probably do it year round. They wouldn't do what Six Flags does and shut it down, after the Halloween season's done.
I don't think I've been to Great Escape in, probably since the 80s. But I do remember when we were there were trees everywhere, and there were rides and things amongst kind of, wooded areas, similar to what Disney tries to do, is they try to have, trees and not just have it like just flat and buildings.
Yeah. And they could also do it like in the park by like purchasing the rights from Enchanted Forest and Water Safari in Old Forge.
All right.
So that's for a while. Water Safari was the largest water park in like east of the Mississippi for a while. And then Disney came into the game and built those two. But yeah, so that's where I would go. But do you have another one?
No, that's pretty much everything I have covered. We could do South Korea also. But I don't want to get into that too much. I did in a previous episode, but I had 4 other things that are not directly related to where the park's going to go. It was kind of a wish list of if there's this $60 million
billion with a B.
Right, billion. Thank you. That I would want a couple things fixed at Walt Disney World.
Yeah.
And feel free to jump in if you agree or disagree with these things. Fix Imagination. Just do it.
Yeah.
Fix it. That's got to be on the top of their list.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
Maybe $1 billion worth of a fix.
I want Space Mountain upgraded to match Disneyland's version because it's
Far
people
superior.
that have done both. You will agree.
Okay.
Disneyland is far superior for Space Mountain.
Okay.
Fix the Yeti. Get it moving. Get it working. Okay, fix that.
We've talked about why I think they don't, though, because
Yeah.
the force generated by that is like more than a 747 on takeoff.
It is, or just change the lighting in there so you see it better.
Yeah.
And then the last one, I did one for each park, and then retheme Rock and Roller Coaster, please.
Yeah. Yeah. We should have done a favorite fix or flatten version
Yeah.
today instead to show our normal listeners what the Patreon version of favorite fix and flatten is, because we could have like seeded the list properly and made sure we got Rock and Roller Coaster so we could fix it.
Yeah.
We've done some rethemes on that guy plenty of times. So,
Anything you want to throw out there?
I just want to throw out there that I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. We enjoy doing these ones. Not that we don't enjoy doing the list. And I want to throw out that I need listeners to all do this week. Here's my call to action. I have two, and I know that's like against the rules for calls to action.
It's all right.
But here, I have two calls to action for you. One, share this podcast with a friend. Okay? Make a friend listen. Because we would love to get new listeners. I think a lot of times it's word of mouth, right?
Yep.
And two, which is my bigger call to action here, is I need you to pay attention to our Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
Because we are going to do a series coming up at the end of this year that is like all about, we're going to probably make this a yearly thing.
Yeah.
But all about you, the listener.
Yep.
And
I'm really looking forward to this.
So we are going to like put questions out there, and I am going to compile the data that we get, and we're going to do listener lists, and we are going to react live to them. Well, Rob is, I have to compile them.
Yeah.
But we're going to react to your list. So for instance, one will be like favorite resorts. Okay. One will be favorite restaurant in a park. One might be favorite ride at Magic Kingdom. And it can be like favorite thing that happened in 2023. We're not sure yet. We haven't had compiled our complete list of lists we're going to have you guys do.
Yeah.
And we might do two a show. I don't know. It depends on how it works out. But I need you to pay attention to our Instagram.
Right.
Okay. Yes, I want you to share the show. Please do that. But if you're a listener, if you're on Instagram, I need you to pay attention, because we are going to want as much data as we can get. And it's going to be so much fun going through this, because then you're part of the data. And here's the thing. I could do them as polls. I don't want to do them as polls. And here's why. The polls, when you click on them, you know how they always show you the
results. Yeah.
So I want them to be just questions. And I'm going to take, list and I'll clean up the data and, whatever. I'm going to go through and we're going to figure out what the listener lists are. I think it's going to be a fun time this year doing this. I'm really excited. This is Rob's idea.
Yeah, and I wanted it to kind of be an end of the year like summary of everything we've talked about. It's like a best of.
Right. But turn it over to you, the listener.
Because we want to know. Yeah, we give you our top 5, but we're not kings of Disney. I
wish.
Yeah,
$60 billion just to spend on the parks. I wish I was the king.
We wish, but we want to know what our listeners.
It's going to be fun.
Top 5 from the listeners.
Yeah,
and I'm very excited about reacting towards these two.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can have me guess. What do you think their number one is? See if I can come up with it too. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
I agree. I am really excited.
Since this is happening soon, like Nick said, share it with people. We want, if you know somebody who's a Disney fan and wants to go in and vote on their favorite, it's a good time to jump on board and become a Dislist fan in any capacity, whether you're part of our Patreon or not. This is for everybody, and all of our listeners, and
that's kind of why I wanted them to share it. Is that I want more data?
Yeah,
because the more data, the better. As a stats guy, I know that. Mm-hmm. So, direct your friends over to @dislistpod over on Instagram and have them listen to the show so they know what we're doing and what this is about. And then we can gather a lot of data, and I think it's gonna be a fun set of episodes.
So we'll wrap up all our episodes at the end for the next month or so with just reminding people about this. And I mean, let's get as much as we can. I mean,
Yeah,
we're
I'm
going to start these
I'm
soon.
going to start posting these pretty soon.
Great.
I'll put them in highlights too, so people can continue to answer. But now we can.
Well, that's important too. Now go over that a little bit more on how that works.
So they'll be in our highlights. So I'll post them as a story. But then, like, because those are only up 24 hours, I'll probably take. I'll not probably. I'll add them to our store or our highlights, and that way you can still reply. And I'll probably do like, before we go to record, I'll probably do like a rapid fire day of like. Put them all up there.
Great.
And everybody can re-answer again, so they're more visible and in the forefront of your mind.
This is great.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I'll end with this. We have a lot that we're gonna talk about. We have some really great ideas for not only this specific thing, but for over the next year. We are still going to continue with our top 5s, but we're going to do some different things. And all of them sound really fun and really exciting. And we hope you're all on board for it. And suggestions, too.
Yeah, give us suggestions. I'm good with that.
Especially for Patreon, we get suggestions all the time. And a lot of times we do exactly what
we're asked to do.
Yeah, it's great. It's a lot of fun.
Uh-huh.
So we wrap up these Patreon shows a little bit differently, too. We flip-flop it. So... it's been a great, big, beautiful tomorrow, and tomorrow is just a list away.
Tune in next time, and we'll see you real soon.